clothes and make it... Hello and welcome to my new channel where we take old clothes and make it fashion. If that sounds interesting, please consider checking out my channel because I do a lot of DIY fashion videos, upcycling and all that kind of stuff. But in this video I'm just gonna give you a quick explanation of how to sew in a facing, how and why to do an understitch, and how you can cut in or cut off the seams to get a more neat and flat result. So if that might be helpful to you, please keep watching because I'll explain it all today. So we're already here at the ironing board, but let's assume that you already have your neckline. I mean, I took a pattern of my ring light, but it will do for the example. Because these are round seams, the fabric will much more easily stretch. So in an ideal world, you would want to iron some seam tape on the round seams first. But I unfortunately do not have that at hand, so I'm gonna skip that part for now. And then you have already the pattern of your facing, which looks like this then. You already have your 1 centimeter of seam allowance on there on both sides. So it will fit perfectly in your neckline. I'm just using neckline as a matter of speaking now, but this technique is the same for a facing in pockets, for example, or in armholes. And what you usually want to do is reinforce the fabric with some iron-on interfacing. So you just want to cut out your facing with the seam allowance that I already drew on the pattern. And then now, ladies and gentlemen, pin your facing on your fabric. Of course, the good side on the good side, and you can just place your pins horizontally so that you can sew over them. And if you have a pattern, usually you have some cuts, like these little kind of markings, so that you know how to put your facing on top of it. So if you have like a round like neckline or a pocket or anything, you can now go ahead and make some horizontal cuts in the seam allowance towards the thread. You don't cut all the way to the thread, but like almost all the way, just maybe 2-3 millimeters from the thread. In this way the seam allowance can move both ways. And then you can go ahead and do the understitch. So the understitch is going to make sure that you're going to have a really nice and flat result. So if you skip this step, you will definitely see it in the end result. You will basically have a facing that will come out. So when you understitch, you stitch over the facing and over the seam allowance. So double check that before you start sewing that the seam allowance is folded to the right side. And then you can just stitch over it really close to the seam. And usually you have to kind of stretch the fabric a little bit apart just to make sure that everything is lying nice and flat when you do this. And now most probably the facing is already really nice when you fold it inwards, but when you give it a proper press with the iron, it's gonna look amazing. If the facing is still popping out after you did the understitch, you might as well make some more cuts in the seam allowance. Or you may also just make your seam allowance a little bit shorter. You just cut like 0.5 centimeter off, or maybe even a little bit more, but you don't want to cut too much off because of course we don't want our facing to fall off the fabric. So that's it guys, it's not that hard, but you might do a little bit of practicing first on a rest piece of fabric if you've never done this before. So if you find this video helpful, please give it a like and a comment, tell me how you're getting on with it. And if you like upcycling fashion, I would recommend you check out my channel because I do cool videos every week, and subscribe if you like what you see, because that really helps to support my message, and I hope to see you back there. So bye guys, thank you.